Hello and welcome back to the Week 13 NFL DFS slate preview for the Sunday main slate. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. We are back grinding, getting ready for the Sunday slate. Now, I'm your host, Tyler Weeman at FlatTyler83 on your DFS sites and Twitter. We will be breaking it down, going through all the games and our highest projected plays, some pivots you can make, and all of that good stuff. Now, before we get into it, come join us at LineStar. $39.99 per month gets you access to all we do, all the props, all the DFS. You get it all, one low price, access to all the apps and website. Also, if you have never tried us out before, go to the App Store, download LineStar app, and access us through that to get access to a free 7-day trial. Now let's dig in. Let's get into the slate. Got a lot to go over, and I know everybody is busy this weekend with family and fun and all that stuff, so we will try to get through as quick as we can. But we got 11 games on FanDuel. We have 10 games on DraftKings. There we go. Quick slate overview as we generally do. 11 games. We'll do the slate overview on FanDuel because there is the Niners and Bills at night. I do want to state one thing. We actually do have a little bit of weather concerns this weekend. The San Francisco and Bills game, they are getting pretty much a blizzard over the weekend. Now, the Sunday night game, it is going to be scattered snow showers. It's going to be cold. There's going to be a ton of snow around, but the main worry here is we're just not sure the field situation. I wouldn't be that concerned about super stormy conditions in the game because it's scattered snow, but the main concern here is, they got multiple feet of snow over the weekend. So we're really not sure how that field is going to hold up. I think that people may stay away from that game a little more than they should with, worries of weather. But wind isn't that bad. It is going to be snowy. Maybe the field's a little slick, but it could help offense a little bit because offense knows where they're going, whereas defense does not. Okay, now games we need to target. We got Eagles, Ravens, 50.5 total. That's obviously a very interesting situation. Rams, Saints, 49.5. Bucks, Carolina, 46.5. 47 for Steelers, Bengals, 47.5 for Chargers and Atlanta. Those are the highest game total games. And then the highest, team totals are Ravens, Tampa Bay, and Rams. All of them are 26.5 to 26, with the Rams being 26, Ravens being 26.5. Buffalo does have a 25.3 game total as well and needs to be considered. Now, our fastest games of the week are the Saints and the Rams. It is not often that our fastest game of the week is also one of the highest game totals of the week. And for that, I think we probably need to look at it a little more in depth. We also have Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, again, one of the higher game totals. And then the Jets versus Seattle is there. I do have to mention that the Philadelphia-Baltimore game isn't particularly fast, but, both offenses are so efficient that it gets done. And then Chargers, Falcons are on the, above average side, but they are not the quickest. Now, let's get into it. Position by position, starting at quarterback, Lamar Jackson, our highest owned quarterback. He's 16% owned. It is in this Philly game. Obviously, this game is very interesting. One thing that I think is interesting aspect of it is the Eagles have been very, very tough versus quarterback and wide receiver this year. The other aspect is Darius Slay is going to be out, so they're losing one of their best corners. It's an interesting spot. You can attack it, but Lamar Jackson is going to have to be very good in this game to get it done. And, I mean, he looks like he could win MVP again. So he's been great. Don't mind going him. He is just too good with the rushing upside that can absolutely put a game out, put a slate, out to waste. And he could totally break the slate. In a game like this, you need to consider him. Sam Darnold, 7,200, 14% owned. My issue with this spot is this Minnesota defense has been playing incredibly well. And if Sam Darnold's not pushed, he really doesn't have to get a huge score. Now he is 7,200, but I think there are 4, maybe 5 quarterbacks that can go for 30 plus on this slate. And when you have that many quarterbacks, the likelihood of one going for 30 is fairly high. And I think it's going to be really hard to win a slate with Sam Darnold just because he doesn't have that chance of going for 30. Now, can he go for mid-20s? Can he put up low 20s? Yes, and I think he's in a fine spot if you want to go more of a cash game quarterback. But as far as a ceiling potential spot, I don't love it. Cardinals defense has been sneaky good. They've held some good teams to under 20. So I don't love the spot. Drake May, 6,800. He is versus the Colts. If you want to go here, that's fine. He gives you a little rushing upside, which definitely helps. But my issue with him is what are the chances he's going for 25 plus? I don't think it's super likely. And if I'm going to play this game, I would rather have Richardson, who has a little more higher rushing upside. And he's versus a Patriots team that can't get pressure, isn't great versus the play action. Two of the things that really determine if Richardson's going to have a game. So I would rather go Richardson over May. Now we get into pivot land. If you want to go Kyler, it's fine. Kyler has the ceiling. I don't mind going there whatsoever, but it's just versus a very, very good D. How they've given up a little bit in the passing game, but I don't love the Kyler spot. All right, now pivot time. Matthew Stafford, 10% owned. He is 7,400, so similar as Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's only 200 less, but Darnold with Puka, Kupp, and Kyren, or Darnold Stafford with those guys, has been really good, and even good against some good defenses. He went 19 against Philly last week, and now he's in a spot versus the Saints, who have been giving it up. They're allowing 287.8 yards per game to the quarterback, along with 1.3 touchdowns per game. Now you put in the fact that Stafford is an elite quarterback. I think 302 or 3 is very much in his realm of possibility, and there is a chance the Saints are able to push the Rams. This game has a close spread, and if they're being pushed, I think Stafford could go 303 or 4 if points are really going up on the board here. So I think Stafford's a very interesting one, and he has multiple people you can stack with him. And then the Saints have a couple bringbacks too. So I think this game environment is one that I want to target. And if I'm using Stafford, I'm probably building around the game as a center point to that lineup, telling a story that, hey, this game, it could get out of touch, and I'm going to have, 4 or 5 guys from the game. All right, next we got Jalen Hurts, 9,200. Lamar Jackson is the chalky one. Jalen Hurts is not chalky in this game, and arguably there is more rushing upside with Jalen Hurts because he's used more around the goal line than Lamar Jackson, so he has those rushing touchdown upside. The other thing is the Eagles really have not had to pass all season long. If you look, he's at 26 attempts a game. Over the last 4, 23.5. And we've still seen 3 30-plus point games. 20 attempts, 24, 20 attempts. What happens if we get a rushing touchdown from him and he has to throw the ball 40 times or 35 times? I think there's just giant ceiling with Jalen Hurts, and he's going overlooked at his price. definitely willing to go with some Hurts. Now, there is one thing we need to mention here, that Devonta Smith is questionable. If he's out, that target tree shrinks too, where, yeah, they need to pay more attention to A.J. Brown, but A.J. Brown is just a complete beast in his own, and it makes stacking easier because you're just going to go Brown. You're going to go Saquon Barkley. You're going to go Dallas Goedert. Though, what happens with one of their big guys out is the target trees just shrink. They don't really add their ancillary players that much into the mix. So I think it's very interesting and definitely like some Jalen Hurts. Next, we got this Chargers and Falcons game. I added Kirk Cousins to the like list late just because he's 6,900. He's given us a 29 and a 35. The one thing, though, is Kirk Cousins has to be pushed to give you these big numbers. The games of which he has gone nuts, it's 36-30, it's 31-26. He has been pushed. Both teams are scoring big points. And in that situation is when Kirk can go nuts. If he's not pushed, they're going to run the ball down Chargers' throat, or at least try. So there is a definite game script we need to use Kirk Cousins. That is, the Chargers are scoring probably early, probably often. This game environment gets to a game total of 55 plus, and you definitely want pieces of it. So I like Cousins, but once again, I'm using him in an environment of which this game particularly is going nuts. Justin Herbert, 7,900. I like Herbert a lot. I like him if the game goes nuts, which I think it totally could, or without it. The reasons being, J.K. Dobbins, he's out. That is going to impact Herbert, and it's going to impact how the Chargers come into this game and what they think. And what we have seen from the Chargers in games where they think they need to score points, they have came out aggressive. Versus Cincinnati, 36 pass attempts. Versus Baltimore, 36 pass attempts. In those games, they're coming out aggressive. There's a big ceiling. Herbert can use his legs. I think there's a lot of different ways to go. And the Falcons haven't been good versus the quarterback. They're ranked 27th on the season, 32nd over the last four, allowing 288.5, 2.8 passing touchdowns, and then allowing, 17 yards rushing, which for Herbert, that's, probably 25, 30 yards rushing that he can get here. So I think this is a very interesting spot, and Herbert is going overlooked a little bit. It's a fast game environment. It is definitely one I like. And without Dobbins, I could foresee them being more aggressive. Look, I hate to say it, but Gus Edwards has been dust. He hasn't really been, doing too much. There was some coach speak this week saying that Vidal could take that J.K. Dobbins role. And if that's the case, you don't want Gus Edwards because he's not getting enough carries. He's going to be in his role. He's not going to add targets. Then Vidal is a little interesting because he's super cheap, but is Vidal going to be as explosive as J.K. Dobbins? Very, very doubtful. I think it's going to be in the hands of Herbert, and they come out aggressive. All right. Other guys, Anthony Richardson, we talked about it briefly. I like his spot versus the Patriots. They don't get pressure. They're bad against the play action pass. Two things that Anthony Richardson needs for success. Then you add in his rushing upside, which he is 10 rushes in both games since retaking that starter spot. So I think his rushing is a thing to stay, and that just gives him so much upside. He is one of the only sub 8K guys that has a true 30-plus point ceiling. Herbert can get there. Stafford can get there, but Stafford needs a giant passing game. And Anthony Richardson definitely can. Next, I think we got to bring up Josh Allen. 9K. It's expensive, but it's the night game. If you're on FanDuel, that's an interesting thing just because you have that late night hammer. And in a snow game, maybe he runs a little bit more. It's also against the 49ers, who can create some offense and push the Bills a little bit. One of the things we have seen this year and with the new OC is Josh Allen needs to be pushed a little bit for the Bills to put the game on his back. When the game's on his back, then those 30s, 30 plus is capable. So if the 49ers are able to move the ball, able to put some points up, then Josh Allen starts to look pretty interesting. He can rush, he can pass, he can kind of do it all. And a little bit interested in him. I'm not going to have a ton. I am a little worried about this snow and weather situation, but I think this game environment is one that Josh could go nuts in. And if nobody's going there and you have a quarterback with that type of ceiling, it's worth taking some shots. All right. DraftKings top-owned quarterbacks, Justin Herbert, we covered him. Matthew Stafford, covered him. Jalen Hurts, 7,700, 15% owned, covered him. Bryce Young, 4,700, 13% owned. We need to talk about some Bryce, especially on DraftKings. He's versus Tampa Bay. They are 31st in the NFL versus the QB. Bryce has looked better since coming back. So I think on DraftKings, when he's 4,700 versus this defense, you can give him some shots. Now, I would expect the Tampa Bay Bucks to bring a ton of pressure to Bryce Young, which that hasn't worked out well for Bryce Young. So I am a little scared about this, but I think Bryce has been playing a little better, so it's worth taking some shots here. I don't love it, but he's only 4,700. Can he give you 20 plus? Yes. Is it likely? No. But if one of those, top end quarterbacks goes for 35 plus, you're likely dead in the water if you have Bryce and he's only getting you 20. So that is the trade-off. A bet on him is interesting, but you need some other of those big guys to fail. And so if that's the case, probably don't stack any of the Eagles, Ravens in your lineup and, go elsewhere. I would say maybe just cancel that game out if you want Bryce Young, because that is, the high-priced quarterbacks on DraftKings are pretty much in that game. And that's what you'll need. You'll need that game to fail a little bit, or Daniels to fail. All right, let's get over to running back on FanDuel. High owned, Chuba Hubbard, 30% owned. He's versus Tampa Bay. Look, they haven't been super strong versus the running back. They've been giving it up through the air, but I still struggle a little bit to want to go to Chuba. Can he get there? Yes. He did it versus KC a little bit. He did it versus the Giants. He did it versus the Saints. That's 3 decent games in a row. We've seen him, be good all season long. I'm fine if you want to take some Chuba. I'm not just going to go to it. Kenneth Walker, 8K, 22% owned versus the Jets. He's in a decent spot, used all over the field. Targets are still there. We know they're going to want to run the ball a little bit, but this O-line hasn't been that good. He hasn't been efficient running the ball. He's really going to need to fall in the end zone with 2 touchdowns to deliver you an optimal lineup. And going high owned, I don't love the spot. Chase Brown, 7,300. The workload is amazing, and for that alone, you got to consider him. Look, 32, 22, 27. Those kind of touches, you got to just go to it. Now, Khalil Herbert is there. I think he's going to have to touch the ball a little bit. It's now been a few weeks with him there, so he's going to get his chances, but I think Brown still gets 90% of the work, and in that case, I got to take my chances on him, and he's probably going to be one of my higher-owned running backs. The fact that he can just do it so many different ways, and the Steelers are giving up 1.8 touchdowns per game to the running back over the last 4, it's too interesting of a spot for me not to have some. Now, they're a tough D, so I'm not going to go super, super hard, but going to have some and have a solid amount. 13% owned CMC, ceiling and workload is too high not to consider him. Purdy's back. The Bills are really tough against the wide receiver. I like CMC and I like Debo actually this game because I think the Bills could be beat by pass catching running backs, which some Debo also kind of is at times. And so CMC, Debo, both interesting to me, even though Debo's a wide receiver. Alvin Kamara, you got to consider him, 13% owned. Saquon, he's been too good all season long to not consider him at all, but it is a very tough spot. However, at least the Ravens can be beat through the air by the running back, and I would expect they try and, scheme some stuff to get Barkley the ball in the passing game. Joe Mixon is in an incredible spot, but 9,500 is just a super high price for him. I mean, the chances of him going 4X is extremely slim. Chances of 3X is, unlikely. So, I mean, it's going to be tough to go there for me just at his price point. But it's a great matchup. Jags allowing 160 yards on the ground to running back, 1.5 touchdowns per game to running back. They're 32nd over the last 4. Definitely reasons to want to go there. Next, I got to bring up Kamini Vidal, 4.3K. He had one decent game when Gus Edwards went out and then didn't do too much. But J.K. Dobbins just picked up the pace. Now it's, the other side of that. It is inverted. It is Gus being likely RB1, Vidal RB2, but taking more of that Dobbins situation. Vidal has more targets in these 4 games than Gus Edwards has all season long. Gus is not going to get the targets. It will be Vidal that's involved in passing situations. At 4,300, you got to at least consider him. Kyren Williams, this game environment is a good one. The Saints can punch back. The Rams can score. I'm interested. They're 28th versus the running back on the year, allowing 109 yards a game, 1.1 touchdowns over the season, 1.3 touchdowns per game over the last 4. Williams is very, very good, gets a ton of work, but he hasn't really found the end zone much lately, and we really need that for his upside. He is pretty much a touchdown and yardage back. He's used a little bit in the passing game, but not very much. So we need 100 and a touchdown at minimum. 102 is really what you need to get it done. But this game environment can support that, I think. I got to go back to Bucky Irving, 7,200. The game script is likely to be similar as last one, where the Bucs are winning decently and able to focus on their running backs. Bucky Irving, 12 for 87 rushing and 6 for 64 receiving with a touchdown last week. And he got vultured by Sean Tucker like the first drive of the game because he had a big run, fell at the 1, and Tucker ran it in after he was tired. So I think there is a definite path to Bucky Irving again. I'm fine taking some swings there. If you want to play White, that's fine also. White got a lot of work also. Just my worry is his upside is really in the passing game. So this game needs to stay a little closer for White to get it done. And got to talk about Gus Edwards. I don't expect his carries to really go up much. I think 12, 14, maybe something like that he gets, but he has to get a touchdown and, 100 yards to break the slate. I don't see 100 yards. He could get a touchdown or 2. If he gets 2 touchdowns, you might want him, but not having him, I don't think you're going to be dead in the water if you don't have him, but a little interested. All right, DraftKings, high owned, Chase Brown, Alvin Kamara. Kamara's in a great game environment. Usage has been huge. Definitely need to consider. Price came down a little bit because of his lack of touchdowns. Taysom Hill in the mix definitely hurts his touchdown upside, though. Joe Mixon, Barkley, all are interesting. Aaron Jones, we haven't talked about. I think this game has a broad range of outcomes. I'm not scared to take some shots on Jones, but not going to go super heavy on him. All right, let's get into the wide receiver spot on FanDuel. High owned Ladd McConkey, 26% owned, 6,300. He has 3.5 star alert score. He's been good all season long. My only issue with Ladd is his target volume. 6 targets, 9, 2, 7, 6, 7, 8, 7, 6, 4, 7, consistently right around 6 or 7. On the year, he's averaging 6.3. That's not going to change unless they throw the ball 40 times. He is going to need, Herbert to throw the ball 40 times to probably kill you, because he is going to need 10 plus targets, one, maybe 2 touchdowns to really be needed. It's not very likely. I like Ladd, love the spot that he's in, but I understand that for him to really be needed, he's going to need volume. So I'm probably only playing him in stacks with the Falcons or with the Chargers. Either run backs with the Cousins stacks or in Herbert stacks, because we're betting on that volume. I think he's going a little too high owned if this game doesn't go nuts. So I like Ladd, but probably pretty much only going to play him in stacks. Drake London, similar situation. He needs the volume to really go nuts or get 2 touchdowns. So it's pretty much a game environment bet with him as well. T. Higgins, 21% owned versus Pittsburgh. T. Higgins has been crushing when healthy this season. Absolutely fine going to him in this spot. My one worry is that on our matchup, it does show him going against Joey Porter Jr. Now, we're not totally sure what Joey Porter Jr. is going to do. Does Joey Porter Jr. just shadow Chase, try to take Chase out? He could. And in that situation, you don't want a ton of Chase and you want a ton of T. Higgins. But what if he doesn't really shadow one guy because both of these guys are elite and he kind of just stays on his side? In that case, that he might be on T. Higgins a little bit more, and I don't love T as much. But Cincinnati Bengals know they got to pass themselves to wins this season. So there's volume. He has big play upside. He has 2 games, 25 plus. I think he's interesting, as well as Jamar Chase. But if I'm playing Jamar Chase, I am likely to play Burrow in those stacks as well. The reason being, Chase goes how Burrow goes. Burrow's huge game, Chase goes nuts. Chase's huge games, Burrow goes nuts. So I think it is T. Higgins that I'd be playing one-offs of, not Chase. I think there's more likelihood that Chase is going to be able to find some space than it is, Higgins to find some space than it is Burrow. David Moore had 10 targets last week, and with Coker out and the tight end Jatavian Sanders out, I think you can consider David Moore again, especially in the spot versus Tampa. Chase, we covered. Mike Evans played a ton in the first half, had 5 for 68, and then they had the game in the bag and just ran the ball a ton. Evans didn't play a ton in that second half. If Carolina is able to stay in this game a little bit, he's going to be used big time. And with no Godwin, it's him. So very interested in Evans in a weak spot. Nico Collins might be my favorite wide receiver on this entire slate. Jags aren't great. We didn't talk about Stroud as the quarterback, and we should have, because I think there is a path to him being very, very good in this game. Trevor Lawrence is questionable. If Trevor Lawrence plays, this game environment has a better chance of, going off or the Texans putting up a big score. Stroud's best game of the year was with Jacksonville. Nico Collins' best game was against Jacksonville. I definitely am interested in Nico in this spot. I think 150 at 1 or 102, I think are very, very possible in this spot for Nico Collins. Jags have been just terrible versus wide receivers and quarterbacks. So love the spot for Nico. Adonai Mitchell. I'm going to have a ton of Mitchell in this game. He's too cheap on FanDuel, too cheap on DraftKings. He has a 29.5% target rate. So target rate is when you're on the field, how much do you get targeted? He's at 29.5% in those situations. There's no Josh Downs. Alec Pierce is questionable. He's going to likely slide into the slot role, and he's going to get targeted. He has giant play. He has big play upside. He can be used all over the field. I am very interested in Mitchell. I'm going to be playing him a lot. He's too cheap not to. I love this spot. And if Pierce is out, where he's playing 100% of the snaps, I mean, I might have him in 75% of my lineup, something like that. I'm going to play him a lot if Pierce is out. But without Pierce, still playing him a ton. Puka Nacua, he is my favorite of the wide receivers for the Rams today. I'm fine having some Kupp, but Puka is the one I want more than Cooper Kupp. Brian Thomas Jr., if Trevor Lawrence is back, I think the big playability is back. The thing is, with Mac Jones, he just hasn't been running the big play type routes that he was with Trevor Lawrence. And if that's the case, then he's absolutely usable if Lawrence is back in my eyes. And Houston has given it up a little bit lately to wide receiver. They're 28th. 179 yards a game to the wide receiver and 1.5 touchdowns over the last 4. A.J. Brown, huge upside versus the Ravens, who have been awful all season long versus wide receiver 1. Now you got a spot where it might be extra targets because no Devonta Smith, and just a huge upside with A.J. Brown. Very interested. George Pickens versus Cincinnati. Cam Britt has been very good as Cam Taylor Britt as a cornerback. So it's not like a super easy spot for Pickens, but he has been too good, too consistent for me not to consider him in a 47-point game total. We know they're going to take some shots deep, and Pickens can go up and get it. Darnell Mooney, he's a game script play, but a little interested in him if you want to pay down as well. Debo, we covered. I like Debo. I do think that there are some paths to success for him. Just the Buffalo Bills are so good versus wide receiver, but Kyle Shanahan is also so good at finding space for Yak. And in a situation where it's cold, field might be a little slick, Debo can really do some damage. So a little bit interested in Debo in this situation, and interested in them using him a little bit more, around the line of scrimmage, passing as part of an extension of the run game is where I think Debo can get it done. And then Tank Dell, I think you got to throw in there just because the Jags have been so bad. He's absolutely in consideration. Wide receiver on DraftKings, David Moore, 25% owned. He's 3,500. He had 10 targets last week. Targets are going to go there. He's a great spot. Definitely interested in him. But don't forget about Leggett or Thielen. Both of those guys are interesting in this spot as well. Brian Thomas Jr., we covered him. He's interesting. Ladd McConkey, we got him. Chase, Puka, Evans. Calvin Ridley, we didn't talk about. He's 5,700. This Washington Commanders team has been a lot better on defense. I don't love going to Ridley, but there's a path. The workload's been there. I'm fine sprinkling in some Ridley. And let's get over to the tight end spot, and we can quickly wrap this up here. Will Dissly, 16% owned. I like him. Don't mind going there. It's a game environment play. He's been good lately. 5,200 is a little bit pricey for me. I don't expect one of those big games from him, but I'm fine if you want to sprinkle him in. Trey McBride has been insane. He has 1 touchdown on the year, and he keeps giving you these big games. Absolutely fine if you want to go to Trey McBride. He has, a 20, 25-point ceiling, and he's pretty much the only tight end on this slate outside of Taysom Hill who has that. Mark Andrews has been very good. Kohler's out, so maybe Andrews gets a few more reps. The only issue is he's touchdown or bust. Now, can he score? Yes. Can he score twice? Yes. But, 2 touchdowns just isn't that likely, but 5,600 is cheap for him. Cade Otton, only 3 targets last week. He needs the volume to really do it, so I don't love the spot, but I don't mind if you want to sprinkle some in. Taysom, I got to go back to Taysom. The one thing I do have to bring up is Jamal Williams is questionable. If Jamal Williams plays, maybe they don't use Taysom quite as much, but dude is used or able to be used too many different ways to not consider him week in, week out. But 7K is very, very expensive when the most likely outcome is, 7 to 10 points or something like that, or 7 to 12. Dallas Goedert, if Smith is out, he is going to be used a lot in this offense, so need to consider him. And then pivot time, Kyle Pitts is only 5,400, and we have multiple games of him getting 60, 70, 80 yards, 90 and 2. There's a big-time ceiling versus the Chargers, and at 5,400, he's a little too cheap for that ceiling. Hunter Henry, 5,100. If you want to play into this Colts game, which I am a little interested, he's a solid bring-back option for, say, Richardson and Mitchell stack, which that will be a very cheap stack, and then you can go and target some other spots, some other game environments to target. And then Evan Ingram. If Trevor Lawrence is back, there's no Christian Kirk. With that, Evan Ingram is going to be hammered with targets. And I like the spot versus Houston. He's 5,800. There's solid upside. The only issue is he really hasn't got many touchdowns for the last couple of years versus Jaguars team. If he's able to get a touchdown, he starts to look real interesting. I'm fine going to some Evan Ingram. I like him as a pivot, but you're likely kind of doing a game script thing there too, where you want that game to go nuts. DraftKings, high-owned, Dalton Schultz. 3,300 is cheap for him. I'm fine if you want to take a shot there. Will Dissly's fine. Hunter Henry. We talked about Taysom Hill. We covered them all. We'll just get to defense here. So high-owned defenses, we got Buffalo Bills versus the 49ers and Brock Purdy. Don't like that defense. Fine if you want to play some, as there's weather concerns there. But all in all, I don't like to target the 49ers offense with my defense. Vikings versus Arizona, absolutely. That Vikings D is great. Houston versus the Jaguars, absolutely, especially if Lawrence does not play. Then my interest, Tampa Bay Bucks versus the Panthers. It's Bryce Young. They're going to blitz a lot. Possibility for some pick sixes or turnovers or sacks, so interested there. Pats versus the Colts. The whole thing here is who is Anthony Richardson. If he's throwing a lot, he throws some picks, there's a path for the Patriots D. I don't love it. Commanders D versus Tennessee is obviously interesting as well. The thing is that Will Levis was just the quarterback you wanted to target earlier in this season. Can he turn back into that? Absolutely. So that'll do it for us today, guys. I hope you guys have some good luck. Let's win some money. This is an interesting slate to target, and we will do just that. Have a good one, guys. Hope you have a great weekend. Had a great Thanksgiving. Peace. Please like, comment, and subscribe.